The Art of Being Ruled. Wyndham Lewis. Original publication 1926. 1989 edition. Narrated by Skeptical Waves. Part 1. Revolution and Progress. Chapter 2. Revolution rooted in the technique of industry. That IT, science, grows fast is indeed its commonest boast, Professor Santayana says. It changes too quickly for the normal mind to keep abreast of it and retain its independence. But any creative mind, and science is one of its products, is devilish in that sense. Kautsky, in a passage I will quote at length, gives expression to the normal feeling of the danger and damage there is for the human mind in this obsession of a mechanical betterment, especially where it is misapplied. The economic revolution prepared by the epoch of discovery was perpetuated by the introduction of the machine into industry. From that moment our economic situation has been submitted to a continual changing. Everything ancient is rapidly disappearing, novelties succeed one another at short intervals. The old, the traditional, is ceasing to pass for guaranteed, respectable, intangible. It is becoming a synonym for the imperfect, the insufficient, the superannuated. This way of looking at things extends beyond economic life, to art, to science, to politics. If formerly we held to the ancient without examination, today we are willing to reject it without examination, simply because it is ancient, and the time required to age and put out of fashion a machine, an institution, a theory, a tendency in art, becomes ever shorter and shorter. And where formerly we worked with the consciousness of working for eternity, with all the devotion which this consciousness gives, today we work for the fugitive effect of a moment. We know this, and the work is lightly done. Also our products are not only quickly out of fashion, but they are in a short time effectively out of use. The new is what we notice first, what we study most thoroughly. The traditional seems quite natural. The social revolution. K. Kautsky. This way of looking at things, Kautsky says, that is, the revolutionary way, that regards anything that is as provisional, for the day, and anything that belongs to the past as part of the belon of error and failure that is home in history, extends beyond economic life, to art, to science, to politics. Of these four things he mentions, it is only the first that has any particular meaning. For it is surely science that is responsible for this revolutionary attitude, not it for that of science. In the case of art, on the other hand, far from this spirit extending to our way of regarding it, it is quite the contrary. It is only to contemporary movements in art that it could apply. They, it is true, are subjected to the mechanical betterment and the time valuation. It is really the fact that it is impossible to apply these mechanical betterment and time standards to pictures and architecture, that provokes a certain hostility and contempt where the arts are concerned, at least on the part of the small popularizing practitioners of science, and the superstitious public. And so politics today are revolution, quite simply. Nevertheless, there remains some truth in the statement, for loosely, vaguely, and in the form of a habit, the mechanical betterment and time valuation, in which the new and not the antique is the thing possessing prestige, is applied toward et travers indiscriminately, where it is logical to do so and where it is not. In a book, recently translated, of Edo Fiman, Labor's Alternative, How Revolution, in the widest sense, flows from modern technical progress is well brought out, he shows how the movement of unification is due to it. An important impulse towards the concentration of capital, he says, originates, nowadays, from the technical side. The methods of production are continually being improved, and, as a result of such improvements, extant machinery has to be scrapped and replaced by new. He then quotes from the first volume of Das Kapital to support his description of the revolutionizing influence exerted by technical advance. I will reproduce this excellent summary by Marx. Modern industry never looks upon and treats the existing form of a process as final. The technical basis of that industry is therefore revolutionary, while all earlier modes of production were essentially conservative. By means of machinery, chemical processes, and other methods, it is continually causing changes, not only in the technical basis of production, but also in the functions of the laborer, and in the social combinations of the labor process. At the same time, it thereby also revolutionizes the division of labor within the society, and incessantly launches masses of capital and of workpeople from one branch of production to another. Fiman then proceeds, on this text from Marx, to show how the system of commodity production was made possible by the invention of machinery, how machines have made individual energy and capacity unnecessary, how the earliest machines were resisted by those workmen rendered superfluous by their invention, and how today the employing class is as much affected by the drawbacks from a general human point of view of the scientific technical ramp as the employed. The methods of sabotage, the suppression of some new invention temporarily to slow down this killing pace, and so forth, he examines. Finally, He points out how nothing but an absolute elimination of competition, and gathering of the control into the hands of one vast concern, can appease this force, and remove its inconveniences. What he does not say is that, once this is effected, the pace would certainly slacken. Sabotage and slowdown would be the rule, the happy rule, not the anomaly. The senseless and outstripping speed of the merely mechanical and ingenious side of science would terminate, once its commercial utility had vanished with the disappearance of competition, either in a vast capitalist system or a vast socialist system. The foregoing examples will suffice to show how revolution, as we understand it today, is in origin a purely technical process. It is because our lives are so attached to and involved with the evolution of our machines that we have grown to see and feel everything in revolutionary terms, just as once the natural mood was conservative. We instinctively repose on the future rather than the past, though this may not yet be generally realized. Instead of the static circle of the rotation of the crops, or the infinitely slow progress of handiwork, we are in the midst of the frenzied evolutionary war of the machines. This affects our view of everything, our life, its objects and uses, love, health, friendship, politics, even art to a certain extent, but with less conviction. That so much restlessness and dissatisfaction can be a matter of congratulation, as we began by saying, does not seem at first so obvious. The average man feels that he was not designed, as far as he can understand the purposes of his noble machine, to live in the midst of a fever of innovation. He may even momentarily entertain a doubt as to the perfectly beneficent character of science. It is conceivable that he may mutter to himself, on rare but ominous occasions, that plus ca change, plus c'est la même chose, that it all leads nowhere, that to live in a world where nothing matures, but everything is technically nipped in the bud, as it were, where everything shines like polished nickel and pretends to superhuman pep, is an outrage on his noble machine. The complaint of Lord Tennyson's Lotus Eater about forever climbing up the climbing wave. Why should I toil alone, who am the roof and crown of things, etc., would seem to him to exactly hit off the disgust at length resulting from his industrial experiences. As he felt the full dead weight, not of the atmosphere but of the capitalist system, pressing on his soul in the proportion of 6 tons to the inch to, resolutely forcing down his wages for the 100th time, such a frame of mind might shyly peep forth. Short of abandoning the dogma that he is the roof and crown of things, he must have lapses in which such misgivings see the light. These misgivings are without foundation. Without this technical dissolvent that has come to the assistance of philosophy and religion, men would have ceased to criticize life, perhaps, and a sad stagnation would have been the result. To be able at last to have a technique that enables men to regard life itself as something imperfect, like a machine to be superseded, should far outweigh any temporary inconveniences, or even murderous absent-mindedness, of science. Science, in making us regard our life as a machine, has also forced us to be dissatisfied at its sloth, untidiness, and lack of definition, and given us in our capacity of mechanics or scientists the itch to improve it. Our life and personality, viewed as science obliges us to, is not humanly true or personally useful, any more than is the scarified, repellent picture of our skin under the microscope. Science makes us strangers to ourselves. Science destroys our personally useful self-love. It instills a principle of impersonality in the heart of our life that is anti-vital. In its present vulgarized condition, science represents simply the principle of destruction. It is more deadly than 1,000 plagues, and every day we perfect it, or our popular industrially applied version of it. If a new and presumably better machine should not put in its appearance to take the place of the old, then the work of science would be purely destructive. And again, unless life possesses what the author of If Winter Comes calls one increasing purpose, then science is a supreme misfortune. It is only a religious intelligence, in short, that would be disposed to favor science. Above, science was said to have made us regard our life as scientific or mechanistic, and to have given us the itch to improve it. The question is evidently how far it can be improved without radical transformation. But radical transformation is what the most typical modern scientific thought envisages. Philosophy can only be an effort to transcend the human condition, Bergson has said, and Nietzsche proposed some sort of biologic transformation, no doubt, with his Superman. Do you want to be a Superman? Do you want to be a god? That is the question. Does conscience make cowards of us all, as Hamlet asserted?